Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again. It's 10:13 live here at Film Fanatic headquarters. Hope everyone's doing good. It is Tuesday morning. Another another cold morning. I guess it reached almost 0 degrees last night. It's been a cold as fuck winter. So, but anyway, hope everyone's doing good. Uh, Again, I want to thank there's been a lot of cool people commenting on the videos, and I really appreciate all the love out there, and it's great. That's what it's all about for me. So yeah, and I did some. I kind of always try to bring some variety to this channel. I did a show about which was like kind of a second part. I did a first part or part one about 6 or 7 months ago, and then yesterday I did a show on which was a part two of that series. I might do another video at some point too. I probably will, but I did a big show on my love of all things black metal. So I uploaded that yesterday. So that was a lot of fun to do. I'm always trying to bring some variety, and then I also did a video about this new movie Heart Eyes that is coming. I think it just came out. It just came out this past weekend. It's a newer slasher film. I have mixed things about seeing it, and I tried to stress that I have not seen it, but I did a video on my thoughts around the trailer and what I heard about the film. And I'm kind of on the fence. I did see yesterday a guy that I do like quite a bit on YouTube recommended it to highly recommended it as far as being a slasher film and to go see it in the theater. But we also, I don't know, it's a funny thing. We also like, there were a couple of films that he had talked about that he really kind of trashed that I actually really liked. So I'm not really sure, but the verdict's out on that film. But anyway, the video's been up, so with that, being said, I'm trying to always bring some variety to this channel. And I'm going to be doing more music shows here in the future. That's one thing I want to do more of. I've always done some form of a music video, because to me it's all music and film, and everything is all so related to my world, to just my personality, to the influence for my band Quantum. Next week we have a big show coming up at Hey Sailor with the Button Men, and I've been hitting it pretty hard as far as promotion, and I'm really excited to be playing there again. We've been fortunate enough, and very fortunate just in general, to play a lot of gigs there, and I really love playing there. And so we're going to be playing there again with the Button Men. We played there last year with them, and that was a blast. So we're trying to really get some folks out there, and it'll be a free show. So yeah, come on by. There's going to be more and more promotion as the time comes. It's going to be the weekend after this coming weekend. So yeah, and today's show I'm going to be talking about a movie that I am so excited to talk about, and I am so pumped that I got a Blu-ray version of this film, because this is one of my all-time favorite movies, and I've never really seen a good quality version of this film. And the movie I'm going to be talking about today is easily one. If I had to pick a top 10 list or top 5 list or whatever, this movie would definitely make that list, and that is John Boorman's Excalibur. I absolutely love this movie. One of my all-time favorite films. I I have a long history with this movie. This is a movie I saw. This came out in 1981, so it's wicked old school. Again, it really comes out of, it's really a movie that came out, and it's a part of my favorite decades of film. Late 70s, early 80s. in most of the, I mean, realistically, most of the slasher films that I cover are all from the year of 81 or 82, really. And the other funny thing is, like, I did a whole big series on this channel about one of my favorite figures in the world of horror exploitation, Paul Naschy. And basically every movie came out 81 or 82. So you just can't beat it. But this movie is just legendary. And this was a movie that I saw a lot when I was a kid. It was, I don't know, it was kind of a staple of my diet. I used to see it. It used to be on cable back when cable existed. It used to be in syndication on TV, so I grew up watching this film. I, as far as fantasy, classic mythical stories, this is about King Arthur, Knights of the Round Table, and Merlin, the magical sword, the quest for the Holy Grail. Just such a classic mythological fantasy story. And this is by far the best adaptation. There has been quite a few adaptations of this, classic literary story, fantasy based story, but this, I think, without a doubt, is the best. I and again, I used to see this all the time on cable, and then when the VHS, I grew up during the VHS era, so this was a movie I used to rent, all the time as a kid. I've seen this movie so many times. Like, it's funny. I there was a time in my childhood that I probably saw this film like 100 times, and then I and then years and years and years and years went by, and I had not seen this film, and I almost kind of forgot about it to a degree because I had seen this movie at such a young age, and then I got fast forward many years. I got exposed to all kinds of other films and things. I mean, to say I forgot about it sounds a little bit harsh or ridiculous, but I just consumed it so much as a kid, and then and then probably it was after college that I kind of got reintroduced to this film because I ended up getting a copy of this film on VHS. I had a VHS player that I used for probably 4 or 5 years, and I had one of my closest friends, and when I did about a month ago, I did a big show on, like, a tribute show on the fact that I was really psyched that this channel, my Film Fanatic channel for YouTube, reached 500 subscribers, and I did a big show about that, and did a big thank you and shout out to the folks that were really, I guess, helped shape my love of film. And one of those guys, it was two guys, two good friends that really did that: Sean Russell and Charlie Hendrick. Charlie Hendrick was the guy who reintroduced me to Excalibur. He had a VHS copy of it. He moved. He now lives in New Orleans. He grew up in Maine, and he was traveling for a long time. And before he took off for his big trip, and for years we always hung out and we played in all kinds of different bands. And he, before he moved away, he gave me a shit ton of VHS tapes that I still have. My VHS player broke last year, and I have no desire. I don't like VHS. I think VHS is trash, and I don't understand why the silly hipsters out there are clinging to a dead media format. But one of the tapes that I had in that collection was Excalibur, and it got me back into watching it, and I watched it a shit ton of times on VHS, and I was like, "Yep, this movie is such a fucking classic." And but of course, it was VHS, and the quality was shit. So fast forward, maybe probably 3 or 4 years later, I got Excalibur on DVD. I think I got it in my travels one time when I went to Goodwill. There's a lot of Goodwills here in Maine and well, all over the country, but there is one really great outlet in Rockland, Maine. I have gotten a ton of movies from the Goodwill in Rockland. They definitely have the best movie selection, and especially when it comes to Blu-rays and DVDs. I've gotten a shit ton of Blu-rays from that shop. And anyway, so probably I don't know, it was probably like 7 or 8 years ago. I was traveling, driving around, and I went to Goodwill in Rockland, and I came across Excalibur on DVD. And I remember being super excited because I was used to just seeing it on television as a kid, and then it was, when it was on cable, it was kind of edited for television because this movie gets pretty gnarly. And so it was always edited. So when I got it on VHS, it was great to see a uncensored version of the film. But, it's VHS, so the quality was not very good. So then when I got this new DVD version of it, I was super excited because it was an uncut version. And I was super excited. And so when I got that on DVD, I watched the shit out of it. But again, it still suffered from it being not very good quality, really, really bad. I mean, well, compared to some DVDs, it's okay. It's decent. It was definitely worth having. It's still definitely worth having and owning. I still have my VHS copy of Excalibur, and I still have my DVD version, and I remember watching it not all that long ago again. So I've got as much pleasure out of it as I could possibly do, and as well as much as I can. So the funny thing was, is I had this past weekend, I had a gig at this. It's a really odd place. It's actually really cool, but it's kind of an odd place. It's I don't know. It's just a really unusual music venue, but it's actually a pretty sweet spot. I think it would be a place like if I was in town, I would in the town where this place is located. It's called the Black Moon. I think it's called the Black Moon Pub or Black Moon Tavern, and it's in Ellsworth, Maine, and it's right. It's about an hour from here, and I had a gig there with a band that I play with, Bookhead Sweet Tooth, and it was funny because leading up until the gig that we played there was on Saturday, and leading up until and the night before we had another gig in Ellsworth at this other brew pub, which was actually really fun. And so Saturday night we had another gig in Ellsworth at the Black Moon, and I was like, wow, I was curious, where is this place? I'm not sure where it is. And I knew it was like really close to this other venue. So, and then I think it was like Friday or Saturday during the day. Yeah, it was Saturday during the day. Saturday during the day I had a rehearsal before the gig. And at rehearsal, one of the guys said, I had mentioned it to him because he lives up in Bucksport. And he's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I've been in that place." And he described it to me, and I was like, "Oh shit, that's where it's at. I have been there." And so it was really funny. So this place is a super funky place because it's a bar. It feels like you're in this like old kind of old timey like Western saloon. But the other thing that's odd about it is it's got like there's like a clothing shop inside it. Like it's a really big room, and on the far left there's like this kind of eclectic clothing shop, and then in the far back there's a music store, and it's all like open air. It's all like an open space, and then you have the bar, and the bar is really huge, and there's a lot of it's a giant room, and it can hold a lot of people. And the music space is kind of funky. They have instruments that they sell, lots of CDs, they sell lots of vinyl, and all these kinds of things. And I had been in there earlier last year. I had a gig up in Southwest Harbor, and on the way back from the gig, we stopped in there for a drink, and that's how I my first time there. And I remember buying this really awesome Tom Waits compilation there. Everything was pretty super expensive, but it was kind of a cool place. It was they had kind of odds and ends as far as equipment. They had some drum stuff there, they had some guitar stuff there, but they had a huge vinyl selection and a ton of CDs and shit. So when I got there Saturday, I got there and I set up and I had some time to kill, and I went to the shop, and I knew they didn't sell any movies, but so I went in there and I was going through the CDs and walking around, and I looked on the side, and they had Excalibur on Blu-ray, and I was just like, "What the fuck? You kidding me?" So they had Excalibur on Blu-ray, and I've been dying and chomping at the bit to buy this on Blu-ray for a really long time. This is a fairly popular movie. I don't really hear it talked about. Nowhere's near like it needs to be, because this movie is such. It's a fucking masterpiece. It's on my top 10 list as far as one of my favorite films of all time. It's probably my favorite fantasy-based movie. Even though I love fantasy, like Lord of the Rings and things like that, but there's something about this movie that is just, yeah, it just really does it for me. So I saw this on just laying on top of the shelf, and they don't sell any other movies. There's no DVDs, there's no Blu-rays, and I was like, that's really odd. So I was like, wow, no shit, this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and it's just sitting there. And I was just like, so I picked it up right away. And then I went over to the owner, and I was like, "So are you guys selling this?" Because there was no price tag on it or anything. It was just sitting out there, and there was nothing else around it, right on the top of the shelf. And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, $4." And I was like, "What? $4?" I was like, "Sold." So I bought this along with maybe one or two other things, and I bought this for $4. And I was like, "Fuck yeah!" I was super excited. And this is like a 30th anniversary collector's edition of this movie. There's no special features on here, but there is a really great, which I did listen to quite a bit last night. I watched this last night. There's a really great commentary track from director John Borman, and this is amazing. Like, it's amazing. I'm super excited. I do believe that there's probably a higher quality Blu-ray or 4K version of this where the resolution is even probably better, but this is still badass. Like, I'm super excited I bought this. I watched it last night, and just amazing. And I always forget how magical this movie really is. It's such an epic film. It's got one of the greatest compilations and one of the greatest film scores ever put to film. John Borman is such a legendary director. I think this is one of his best movies. The cast is just incredible. It was the first film that Gabriel Byrne was in. It was his first role. An amazing actor who actually lives in Maine. Liam Neeson is in this film. Helen Mirren. I mean, the cast is just incredible in this movie. And the thing that I love about this movie is it just really has that magical element to the classic story of King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table. And it just really has that mythical sense. It captures the whole vibe perfectly. This film is so beautifully shot, but the thing that's so awesome about this movie is it's so gritty and badass. Like there's no like you can tell like when they were making this movie, it was a tough shoot because of the incredible battle scenes. And these guys were trekking through the muck wearing all of this gear that just probably weighed hundreds of pounds. So the movie is just so gritty and kind of dirty. And that's what I love about this movie is that it's so like it's just got this gritty aspect to it. It's really the battle scenes are just top of the line, top shelf. It's really violent. It's gory, and it's one of the most epic tales ever told. And John Boorman did a masterful job with capturing this whole world. John Boorman also, in his own right, is such a, you know, kind of one of my favorite directors. He passed away, I believe, a few years back. Um, Actually, it says he's still alive. Yeah, he's still alive. He's 92. But again, he also directed one of my favorite films of all time, Deliverance, which I'm going to eventually do a show on again. I think I did a show on that a while back. Masterpiece. Uh, Zordas, which I've never seen, which is kind of a crime against humanity. I need to see that movie with Sean Connery. The Emerald Forest, Point Blank, Hope and Glory, The Tailor of Panama. I mean, he's just a killer director. Well, he did unfortunately direct The Exorcist 2, The Heretic, which is a total piece of shit, but he's made so many great films, and probably Deliverance is my second favorite. But I think Excalibur was his home run. But I can't recommend this movie enough, and to finally see this movie that I love so very much, to finally get it on Blu-ray, super excited. And again, I do believe that there's a higher there's probably a better version as far as like a higher quality resolution of this film, but I got this for $4, and it it looks beautiful. And to me, again, it's like that experience that I've described many times before. I've seen this movie probably a million times, and it was like watching it for the first time. But amazing masterpiece film. If you've never seen this movie, I highly, highly recommend it. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.